What's up, everybody? So today's episode, we're going to talk about the fuel sending unit in a Nissan 350Z. I wanted to turn this into a return system. The OEM setup is just a returnless system with the fuel regulator or fuel pressure regulator inside the we'll call it a surge tank. That's pretty much what it is. And basically, whenever you run the 2J, you have to turn it to a return system, and then add a return line, have an aftermarket fuel pressure regulator on the engine bay, that sort of thing. So today's episode is just pretty much me showing you guys what it takes to make this work, and this is kind of a prototype situation for me. Like I talked about in the other videos or prior to this, that I was having some issues with the fuel system and stuff like that, but I'm pretty sure I got it figured out. I won't know for complete sure until I actually drive it or when I have it on the dyno, as far as what it's going to do under boost and high RPM. If I run out of fuel, then I'll have to come back to the drawing table and redo it. So this will be just a video of what I've done so far, and hopefully if you do this kind of setup with a 350Z, you might be able to learn something, because it took me a couple weeks just to get this far, and I ran into a major issue which shouldn't have been an issue, but it turned out to be an issue. So anyways, and I'll address that in a few minutes. So I'm going to take it apart and show you guys the inside of one of these things. So and what I'm doing right now is just undoing the wiring for it. You want to be kind of gentle, because sometimes these wires are somewhat brittle, and you don't want to break one, because then you'll just have to fix it. It kind of sucks. So anyways, there's a clip right here, right next to the spring. You pop that up, and then it will come out. So this is just your sending unit level, leveler for the tank gauge. Keep all your pieces separate. So there's that. All right. So here's the tank. I put a Warble 400 fuel pump in it, and I'll show a close up in the video in a moment, but this is kind of the gist of it. So you have a return line here, comes down into this, and it runs into where the stock fuel pressure regulator went before. And this is a custom fitting from CJ Motorsports or something like that. I have to get the name right off, but anyways, it returns line comes in here, and that will work the siphon in from the other side of the tank, and keep everything flowing. So as you can see here, this is a close-up video of the fuel pump assembly. Here's the return line, like I was saying earlier, and going into this. So what we're going to do is take this cap off and this line, so I can show you guys what went wrong on my fuel setup. So kind of set this camera up. Hopefully you guys can kind of watch me do this. Okay, as you can see here, I have the pump apart. Just a few snap pieces. When you take apart where the regulator goes right here, these just pry backwards and it pops out. As you can see right here, just has a couple clips. Pretty easy to do. Be gentle, because it is plastic, and if you break it, these are somewhat expensive to replace. So try to be nice to it. Anyways, so here's a piece right here. This is supposed to replicate the fuel pressure regulator for the 350Z, and it is just a pass-through system. So you can see right there, pass-through. It's supposed to close it all up, but so I put it all together the way it's supposed to. This piece goes there, this goes over it, and then this screws into it like that, and then your hose goes, your dashboard line goes to that. Well, anyways, so basically what was happening is I was getting about 10 psi of fuel pressure, maybe 10 psi, maybe 5, I don't know. It wasn't getting very much fuel pressure. The car would start and die after like a second. So I was like, well, I either got a bad fuel pump or something's wrong. Something's definitely wrong. So took it back apart, switched the pumps out, threw a 255 in there, and tried that known good 255. That wasn't the problem. It was doing the exact same thing. It actually was reading worse, because it wasn't even reading that much fuel, because it was a smaller pump. And then I did some other diagnostics, and come to find out, well, I tore this down, brought it up, put it in a taped off all the orifices, you know, the holes, jets, whatever you want to call them. There's a few on the outside that suck fuel or let fuel bleed. This one goes into the surge tank, so you know, this one just kind of hangs out, I think, or no, this is the one that goes to the other side of the fuel tank. This one goes into that right there in that hole, that O-ring. And then this is just, I don't know, some kind of bleeder valve or something that just goes into the fuel system. Well, if you look down inside this hole, and of course it's going to be kind of hard to see, but you have the main hole for the fuel return that goes in, you know, goes back into the fuel, the surge tank that my index finger is pointing at. And then there's a smaller hole off to the side inside, you know, inside here. You can see it right at my fingertip. And that little guy was bleeding fuel. So pretty much the gist of this setup is your fuel pump is right here. Fuel gets sucked. So your fuel pump will suck into here, you know, up inside here, and it comes inside of this tank. This is like a swirl pot surge tank setup. And then what happens is your fuel pressure regulator will then have fuel come, you know, this works for, it's a Venturi effect like siphon. So whenever fuel goes past this, it will suck fuel out of this one, which will then siphon the other side of the tank. That's how it works. Well, whenever I put this piece back in, the problem I was having is that it was not closing up tight. So you have an O-ring that goes on the smaller nipple, right there where my finger is, and it goes inside here. Well, whenever you put this clamp down, and actually I could show you because it's not even going to be that big a deal. So you can see here, see how that black piece now moves up and down. There's nothing that seals this black piece against the you know, against the, you know, the plastic part. So even with the O-ring in there, which will, you know, it does close the gap a little bit. Here, let me set the phone down for just a moment. Well, so even with the O-ring that they give you, it does not close it up enough. So what I did to fix this problem is I took this. So here's your small O-ring. It goes on there like that, you know, presses up against there. And I took another fuel O-ring. Now this is off a RB25 fuel injector, I believe. It was just one of the O-rings that I had off a kit from my other car, and basically, so it's gonna sit. It's kind of hard to do one-handed. Anyways, so that sits there like that. Now this will seal up the, you know, both edges, and it will completely block off that smaller side siphon tube. So whenever you put that in there, you know it's gonna sit. Well, actually, I'm not gonna put it together right now because I need to set this other piece up. Anyways, you know, you put this back on, and I'll screw this back down, and then I'll push it back in there, and it'll be a very, very tight fit. What I had to do was, oh, and I also, man, I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyways, to make up some of the other clearance, I took a washer, drilled out the inside hole so it could slip over this piece. So now that will take up the gap, so that when this pushes down onto it, it pushes against the washer, and it takes out that 16th or 3/32 gap. And then now I will have a tight seal, and my fuel pressure will bounce up to 40 to 50, you know, 40 with engine off, and you know, 50 with the engine at idle, and you know, and I haven't even set it quite yet. So anyways, that's pretty much the gist of that. As far as making the fuel pump fit, a 255 will slip in pretty much just like a you know, the stock 350Z pump. That's pretty simple. This one I had to mod because it has the wider bottom part to the tank, or well, tank of the pump. Anyways, so all I did was I slotted this like that, you know, and then I'll obviously replace this zip tie, but this will slip down into there, and it pretty much locks on its own. It can't really go that far, but then I will tighten that down, and I might replace that with a hose clamp if I have enough room. I'd like to put a hose clamp on there, keep it like a lot more tight. This was just kind of a, you know, just get it together and see if it works type things. But now, since this is going to be the last time I take it apart, hopefully I want it to be correct and not have to fool with it anymore. So, you know, pretty easy to do. This just snaps and falls into place. Actually, it needs to go about like that. So it all, you know, seals up in there. I use the 350Z sock, you know, so pretty much that's the gist of it. So hopefully this helps somebody if they are going to use the CJ Motorsports kit. And you know, you can pretty much do everything on your own anyway. I ran my own lines from the engine bay to the back of the car, you know, customized. So really the only thing that I bought from them was the dash 4 elbow fitting with the bulkhead setup, and then dash 4 hose to this custom fitting for here. I've read online that some people will take a stock regulator and they will drill it out to receive, you know, to allow for a pass flow system. I just didn't want to fool with that. For one, I just didn't have the equipment to really drill that out properly as far as a drill press and something, you know, so I can get in there accurate, because if you know, walk the bit to the side, it kind of screws up the whole thing. So anyways, hopefully this helps somebody on a future endeavor when it comes to building a, you know, fuel pump assembly that can hold up to high horsepower. Of course, this, like I said before at the beginning of the video, this is definitely a prototype type setup. I'm hoping that I got it right, and hopefully it will work and stay working for, you know, a daily driver type, you know, setup. I'm wanting to push, I mean, the 2J before made, and there it is there, the 2J before made about 501 to the wheel at 18 pounds, but that was also on race gas. So we're going to detune it to the 93 octane and, you know, get it to hopefully make 400, 450 no problem on a low boost setup. You know, I guess anything higher I will have to add up, you know, add cams and things like that. So anyways, I'll do a last video in a moment once I get it all back together to show you guys. So I pretty much have the fuel pump assembly back together. Everything but the, you know, the end cap for the fuel gauge. So anyways, I'm going to get a close up here on this camera. As you can see here, I put that back together. I went ahead and put a hose clamp on this, you know, to hold that tight, because it, after taking it on and off a few times, it wanted to, you know, not really lock as well as I wanted. So I went ahead and clamped it so it can't come apart on me, and then clamped that, and then changed the zip tie out for another hose clamp to seal that in there so that's nice and tight. So pretty much just going to plug in this, the fuel pump, and then it's pretty much good to go. Now, one other thing I did mention from before, actually I'll just go ahead and put this together and then I'll show you. Be sure to always put your wiring back together in case you forget. You'd hate to have to take that stuff back apart just for that simple deal. Okay, so that's pretty much the whole fuel pump assembly as far as what I've figured out and whatever, you know, what I've made, you know, research and stuff like that. So on the CJ Motorsport website for their instruction kit, and as helpful as that was, anyways, they do mention this little guy right here. It's a very, very small pinhole. You can take it out with using like a screwdriver or a small pry bar. Be very careful because it is brittle. It's basically an orifice that sucks fuel, I guess, around here, and it's another one that comes up inside you know, comes up this tube and up inside here. So they say you have to drill that out by a little bit. Do not use an actual drill. Just take a drill bit and hand drill it. If you go too far, you'll drill through it, and then you'll have to get another piece. I'm pretty sure you got to go to Nissan and get that. So anyways, that's just a little FYI. And then CJ Motorsport, they do sell the it's like a slip fuel line, whatever they call it. Anyways, take special tool to take it off. Well, they have this special fitting to turn it to a -6. Because you can buy it through Summit or something like that, but this is the exact size. It's for this. I think it was like 25 bucks. It's pretty cheap. The dash 4 return line kit and that piece was about, I think, 80 bucks or something like that. So I think I spent around $120 shipped to just have that simple kit, and the rest of the stuff you can do on your own. So that being said, that's kind of the end of this thing. This is kind of a longer video. I was trying a couple different ways, so kind of bear with me. I have one phone on a stand, and I was using my other iPhone for a close video. Hopefully they're not too long. I'm gonna try to, hopefully it works out a little better. So than me just doing like a selfie, because it seems like the last couple videos I've been doing is just seem to be like the same kind of setup, and I wouldn't want to watch it, so I assume you guys probably getting sick of watching it that way. So I'm hoping that this setup that I'm doing now hopefully works better, and I'll continue doing this in the future. So anyways, that's 350Z fuel pump mod. Hope it helps somebody. If I'm wrong, sorry. If you see something I'm doing wrong, feel free to comment. Because I'm always up for learning something new. I mean, this is just like anything with custom things, custom engine swaps, that stuff. That you're gonna come across something that is a little different than someone else did online or something. With all the research I did, there's not a lot of information on the 2J and 350Z. So I'm trying to get that information out there as best as I can, so that when someone can watch my video and go, oh hey, that's how to do it. So anyways, hopefully this stuff helps, and we can go from there. So I hope you enjoy this video. Long, probably a little too talkative, but bear with me. So I'll see ya.